Hi, and welcome to the Songwriters Journey. In this episode, I want to talk about what I've learned after a year of pursuing professional songwriting. If this is your first time joining me, I am working at becoming a professional songwriter. I'm not doing this as a hobby. And specifically, I'm focused on writing country music as a Nashville songwriter. Um, so I want to share with you first some accomplishments that I feel like I've been able to do over this past year, and then go through about 12 to 15 things that I've learned. And I'll try to, go through this at a good pace. So uh, please have a seat and enjoy. So this past year, I was able to join ASCAP, got my membership for myself and for my own publishing entity. I created a corporation, got an EIN, and then established that as a publisher through ASCAP. I've gone through several hundred song ideas, jotted down notes. I've got ideas sticking everywhere. Currently working on four songs actively right now. Earlier in the year, probably around February, March timeframe, I was able to find somebody as a co-writer. It's a gentleman up in Canada, and he and I have since become really good friends, and we have been co-writing together since the beginning of the year. And we are about to finish one song and start working on the demo part of it. So that will probably be coming an upcoming episode, and I hope to actually have him on here as an interview sometime around February. So we'll see how that goes. I spent about 2 weeks on vacation in Nashville and made some really good connections there. Got to sit down with a professional songwriter, a gentleman who's extremely well known in the industry and has several number one hits, at least, under his belt. And we had a good time talking for an hour one evening, and that was a wonderful treat. I finished a year long mentorship with a group out of London called the Songwriting Academy. It's run by a gentleman named Martin Sutton. And I will also do a video at a later time, a special episode on that at some point, and just what I learned there. But that was a wonderful experience and is largely what has helped me pursue this. Um, I'm at a point now where I would say I call myself a songwriter. I haven't made any money, don't have a song out yet. Just beginning to work on the demo of the first song with my co writer. But if somebody asks me and they ask what I do, I say, well, I'm a songwriter. I'm pursuing songwriting as a professional. And then, of course, I have my day job that pays the bills. One thing to note is that in this past year, we had a medical crisis in my family, and that has taken a lot of time away from songwriting, rightly so. So for me, the time I've actually been able to spend on songwriting has been roughly probably 6 months, probably about half the time, maybe even less. But this is pretty much a calendar year that I've spent, and I wanted to share that with you. So let's get into it. First thing I learned: there are no bad songs. So I had an interesting conversation through an online chat. It was actually a YouTube webinar where I had posted a question about bad songs. And I don't remember specifically what the question was. I wasn't trying to be mean or anything like that, but the response came back. He didn't refer to them as bad songs. He referred to them as songs that are not commercially viable. And this was a really good lesson for me because honestly, bad song is subjective. Um, the term commercially viable is far more objective because you may have a song that one person may think is bad, another person may think is great, but in either case, it's not a commercially viable song. So I learned to look at songs from that perspective. Is it commercially viable or not? Because truthfully, only great songs get cut. There are a lot of songs that are written. I read today somewhere on the order of about 500 songs a day get written in Nashville. But only the great ones, the really excellent songs, make it to an album, get cut, And even then, of those, how many actually become number one? So, um, there are no bad songs, just ones that are not commercially viable. And not everything is commercially viable. Second, commercial songwriting is a co-writing endeavor. So what do I mean by this? I've ran into a lot of people who songwrite, who like to write songs, but they only want to do it by themselves. And there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing absolutely whatsoever. If you like and enjoy songwriting and want to do that, do it. It's perfectly fine to do it as a solo effort. But what I've found is that in most cases, I'm not going to say for all, but in most cases, commercial songwriting is done with other co-writers. So it would be you and maybe an artist, another songwriter, in a room together, and you work on a song that day. It's not often now, I think, that you see songs that are written just by one individual. It's often involving multiple people. And even that process is getting a little more involved, to where now you'll have like maybe a couple songwriters, the artist, and a guy who's called the track guy or a track person in the room who's actively working on the music track for the demo. So by the time the day is done, there's actually potentially a demo that's ready to go, or a rough demo that's ready to go and get recut in a studio rather quickly. So if you're wanting to be a commercial songwriter, co-writing is, I'm going to say it's almost a requirement. That it's just going to be very difficult unless you're extraordinarily talented and a very rare person who can write hit songs by themselves. Commercial songwriting is going to be a co-writing endeavor. Number 3, the corporation. I've heard Nashville referred to this by a rather famous YouTuber before, and I didn't quite understand what he meant when I first heard it. But then as I got to visit Nashville and talk to people and kind of see how the whole thing works, and this was just in a short 2-week jaunt, but I did manage to get to talk to a number of people and ask a lot of questions. I think it's fair to say the music industry, it's a huge machine that involves a lot of people, and you can almost call it like a corporation in the sense of it takes a lot of people to produce the music and get the music out. And it's not just like an artist or a songwriter or a track person or a studio. I mean, it involves so many different people that relationships in Nashville are immensely important. Because in a lot of ways, unless you are able to do every single aspect of getting a song to market, which I don't think anybody is, it involves a lot of people, a lot of different skill sets. You need those people to really be able to succeed. And it's almost like the music industry is a company, and you're just, as a songwriter or as an artist or as a musician, you're just in one department of it. And your department has its role, and it serves the company, I guess, for lack of a better word. And you all work together to get a song out into the world for people to listen to, and to sell records. And it's a bit of a roller coaster ride. It's like this very organic thing, and it's kind of hard to describe. But like in perhaps what I would call a normal job, like not the music industry. You have your 9 to 5. You kind of know how it goes day in, day out. You may have some surprises in there, but when your paycheck's coming, you generally know how to predict maybe what's going to be happening, whether you're in sales or an engineer, even more so. But you have a pretty good understanding of what your week may look like or what your month ahead of you may look like. In the music industry, every day can be different, and it can turn on a dime, and one day it can be a super high and the next day it could be a super low. Like, say you're an artist and you had a record deal one day, next day you don't have the record deal because uh, somebody in the record company, the person who really likes you left, and then somebody else came and filled their spot. They don't like you, and it's like, okay, yeah, this doesn't work for us anymore. And things like that can happen all the time. As a songwriter, that's not really the case, but you can write a song and it may get put on hold, and it may sit on hold for a while, and you just don't know how long it's going to be there. Or maybe an artist says they want it and then they don't put it on this record, and you're waiting, and it's just a very organic, kind of fluid, unpredictable environment. And so it involves a lot of people, and so relationships are very important, and in some ways it acts very much like this huge kind of corporation that you aren't really sure where the head is. But it's an interesting thing. Number 4, it's hard work, and it takes a lot of time. So writing a commercially viable song, pure and simple, it's just a lot of hard work. I think it might be easier for some. Maybe some are more naturally talented at it than others. But for those getting started, it takes time. I know, I hear stories of, songwriting sessions, and these are guys who are experienced, have been doing it for years. They walk into a writing room, and then by the end of the day, there's a song. And that just kind of blew my mind, because for me, it was like, it's really, in some ways, it's still a struggle. There's a lot I'm still learning. I mean, I am by no means accomplished. And there's a tremendous amount I'm learning. And it's just taken me a lot of time, and I've had to spend time and figure things out and work through it. And, maybe it's like anything, learning something new. It just takes time. And I have a fairly musical background. I played trumpet for about 20 years, so music wasn't foreign to me. Playing on guitar, I was familiar with it, but I just wasn't skilled with the fretboard. And then in keyboard, I could get around. And so, this, for me, it feels like it's been a lot of fumbling and a lot of hard work. But even more than that, it's getting a song to a place to where it would be commercially viable does take a lot of hard work, and there's a lot of nuance to it. Honestly, going into this, I don't know what I was thinking, but I thought it would be easy. I thought it would be easy enough, and it's not. It does take effort, and it takes commitment, and takes passion, and you've really got to work at it. And then, the last point I want to reiterate from earlier on this topic is only great songs are really commercially viable. And to make a song great takes a lot of hard work. The next thing I learned is publishers don't want songwriters. So what do I mean by this? So this came about, and I'm not fully versed in this one, so I'm probably going a little bit out on a limb and talking about this, but I wanted to share it because I thought it was interesting, and I could see it in the industry, in the things that I learned. But publishers aren't just looking for songwriters anymore. I think there was a day where a publisher would hire a songwriter, you get a publishing contract, and you go and you write songs all day, and that was your thing. And that still happens that way in a sense. But what publishers are looking for is they want multi-talent people, or they want people with multiple skill sets, that their investment as a songwriter can be recouped additionally once they've reached that songwriter, like to become a really great songwriter. So the terms I've heard used for this are they're looking for a songwriter artist. So this would be a person who wants to be an artist, but is also a songwriter. So my understanding is that if they're a good enough songwriter, or if they're, the publishing company wants to give them a contract, then they would come on staff as a songwriter, and they would start writing songs for other artists, and they develop their songwriting skills as they develop their artistry. And they may eventually, the goal would be for them to eventually become an artist. Another avenue is a songwriter producer. Let's say somebody doesn't want to be an artist, then they would be a songwriter. They'd work on their songwriting skills, but then they'd also work on their production skills, on taking a song that songwriters created and then producing it for the recording. It's really difficult just to become a songwriter and that's all you are. With a publishing company, they're looking for multiple avenues of success with an individual. So I think a great example of someone who started out as just a songwriter and then eventually became a songwriter artist, I think was Lainey Wilson. I've heard it was either in an article I read or in an interview I saw of her where she talked about all she wanted to be was a songwriter. That was really her goal. And then as she developed, she eventually, she became an artist. And maybe that was something for her, that she decided she wanted to do at some point. But she started off writing songs for other people. And then, obviously she's a very well-known country artist right now. So if in looking to be a songwriter, I think with publishers, they're looking for a songwriter who has multifacets to them. It's not just about songwriting. To me, my understanding is becoming more difficult to get a publishing deal if all you want to do is songwrite. There's got to be an additional road to pursue after that. Number 6, co-writes need a publisher. So what does this mean? So again, this is one that I've learned a little bit about, but I'm not fully versed on, is that in being able to co-write with other songwriters who have publishing contracts, they really want to work with people who have a publisher standing behind them. And my understanding is a large part of that is the ability to cover their part of the demo. Because once you do a co-write and you do a song and you it gets written, a demo needs to be produced in order to pitch it to the artist or to the artist management or to a record company or whoever. But that demo does need to produce, and that costs money. And all the songwriters or the publishers will be responsible for producing or having the demo paid for. And so, if you're a songwriter who's kind of on their own and not really financially capable of paying for a demo, it's going to be very hard to do a co-write with other writers who are part of a publishing deal. So again, this is something that I've learned a little bit about, haven't really figured out totally yet, but it's just one of the nuances of the industry. A bit of a catch-22, it seems, because it's hard to co-write without a publishing deal, but then you need a publishing deal to co-write. It's all part of climbing the ladder and getting help from others. So number 7, Nashville is a 10-year town. So it takes a while to make it in the industry, and I think that's true for whether you're an artist or a songwriter or whatever aspect you want to pursue. I know I've talked to a couple people who they're artists I've met, not in Nashville but outside of Nashville, who, and I think probably a lot of us who dream of, if we're dreaming to be an artist, like I'm not pursuing being an artist. I would be more in line with being a songwriter producer. But if we're wanting to become an artist, it's like, hey, I'm going to go to Nashville, I'm going to make it big, I'm going to do this. But there's really about a 10-year effort it takes to make it big there. And it takes time. I think a lot of the time is spent is building relationships. It's time developing your skills. It's time just, honing the craft. Because I'm not sure how many people really just kind of show up. Maybe, I think there are some who at a very young age are enormously talented and can walk in and really start doing stuff. But I just don't think that that's how the town works. I mean, you've kind of got to prove yourself because there are so many people there making it, so many people who are doing well at it, who are very accomplished already, who've put in the time and who've already made the sacrifices and spent the time to build the relationships and to really go after their craft, that somebody who just walks in off the street, it's going to be kind of hard to say, hey, I'm here, put me to work. It doesn't really work like that. It's, you kind of got to go out there and earn your keep and, and earn your place in the town. As a starting songwriter, you really have to be better than what's already out there. And that's the part for songwriters, it takes time. So what does that mean? Just consider these publishers have songwriters who are on staff already, and they're writing good songs. You have to be better than that to be noticed, because why would they come to you outside of them if they have people on staff who they believe can turn out these good songs? You would really have to be better than that in order to make a dent. And that's where a lot of the effort takes place. Number 8, for artists, following matters. So this is something that seems to have changed in the industry. I mean, probably it's been around for a little while. But for artists who are wanting to, well, let's say eventually get a record deal, record companies aren't really doing the promotion for you. They really want to see that you have a following, whether it's on TikTok or Facebook. I know those matter specifically. So it's, the social media crowd. They want to see you have a following. I think TikTok's the big one right now that really matters. And they're looking for you to have built a following and to have people who are listening to you already through TikTok or through YouTube before they will probably even look at you. Number 9, for songwriters, the song matters. So this is kind of a belief I've developed and things I've learned over the last year. And it's something I refer to as it starts with a song. There is a video out on YouTube. It's called The Story of the Nashville Songwriter. It all begins with a song. So I kind of co-opted the phrase and made it my own and called it "It Starts with a Song." And so what I believe personally, and this isn't something somebody's told me, but this is kind of what I believe, is that the song is the real currency of Nashville, of the music industry, because it really does start with a song. So consider if you have all these artists, phenomenally talented artists who can sing, who can knock it out of the park, but they don't have a song to sing. Doesn't really do any good. It really takes a song um, for them to build their career on. And artists build their career on these songs, and they're often written by other people. So to me, the song is what fuels the fire, and for the songwriter, the song is really what matters to being able to build a commercially viable, great song. And that's what it's important to really work at. Number 10, egos are a fast track to failure. The interesting thing about Nashville as a town when I was visiting is that it is such an enormously friendly town. And you kind of have to understand that there are a lot of people who come to Nashville to make it big in the industry. And there are a lot of people there who are working and kind of working their way up the ladder to try and be successful. And as I mentioned earlier, the music industry is made up of a lot of different skill sets, a lot of different people who are doing different things to get a record, out to its audience. Um, and so you have to consider that when you come to Nashville, when you go there, even if you're good, an ego is not something that's going to be probably too well received because everybody there is working hard at it and trying to make it. And some genuinely are better than others, and others are working hard and trying to do it. In the relationships, because there are so many different skills required, you really need other people. You need to build those relationships. And if you have an ego about what you do, if you're like, well, I'm the best, or, hey, I'm really good at this, you should give me a chance. It just doesn't fly, because everybody there is trying to do the same thing. And so if you have an ego, it's going to cause your relationships to suffer, and then so will your career. So the best thing to do there is just check your ego before you get to town and help people, serve others, offer your skills. Just be a great human being to other people, because that's really what Nashville's about. It's about a lot of people wanting to do music and being good to each other and helping each other climb a very large ladder. Point number 11, I have too much gear. So you can see this behind me. And, I want to point out it doesn't take a lot to write songs. There's history for me with this gear and how much I have. I have a lot of experience. I have experience in a studio. I helped actually build a studio from the ground up. Built sound traps, installed the console, ran cables, wired stuff up, recorded a record in that same studio, helped track the record. So I've been able to do a lot. And this was a number of years ago. This has nothing to do with Nashville. This is before, I even really considered songwriting. So I have a lot of experience with the gear. And one of the things I've learned is that you don't really need a lot to be a songwriter. You need an instrument. It can be your voice, a way to record that so that you can convey your idea to other people. A place to have notes, to write your words and stuff down. That could be a notepad, it could be a computer, it could be anything. And really, that's it. Those are the things you need to get started as a songwriter. Now, it's true that when you need to have a demo created, this kind of equipment comes in handy if you know how to use it and know how to create the demo. Otherwise, you have to rely on other people to do it. So for me, in becoming a songwriter producer, this is part of me learning. This is part of me coming up to speed on the gear and being in a position when I do eventually move to Nashville, because I've not been able to make the move yet. I will be in a position to help other people and to offer my services to people who are trying also to make it in the industry, and to be able to do things for them. Like, hey, I can mix your demo for you, or, hey, I can track some stuff for you, or, hey, here are the things I can do. Here's the stuff I have. How can I help you? That kind of thing. So I jokingly refer to it as I have too much gear because it can become a real distraction. But eventually I will use all of it. And in the process, I am learning how to do that. And I'm in a position at the moment to where I can have the gear. So for me, this is an investment in my future. But it doesn't take nearly this much to really become a songwriter. Point number 12, it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy doing this. I especially enjoy working with my co-writer when we get together. It's just a lot of fun creating the music and being able to work through it and figure things out and just, write a song out of nowhere. He and I, as I mentioned earlier, are kind of hitting our stride. It's funny. I hear professional songwriters, guys who've been in the industry, talk a lot about, you know, they'll go into a co-write, and it'll just be one day, and they go into the co-write, and when they're done with the co-write, however many hours later that is, they have a song. Blew my mind. I'm like, I have no idea how anybody does that. How can you come up with stuff? Obviously they built their skills. They have a deep well to pull from of ideas and tools and all that to where they are able to do that. And then my co-writer and I, we get together for a couple hours each week in the evening. And so for us, it's like we have a 2 hour window a week that we are able to work together, that he and I are able to work together. And then across 3 different sessions, we pretty much got a song to where we're ready to start focusing on the demo. And we both looked at each other and was like, hey, we did it. 6 hours, that's like a day. And that was really an exciting moment for us. And so moments like that, they're a lot of fun. And we had a great time. So songwriting is a tremendous amount of fun. Final point, captain your own ship. So this is one I have to keep telling myself because there's nobody in the industry who's going to make this happen for you. You really have to be the captain of your own ship. You really have to make your decisions about which way your career in this is going to go, what you do, what you need to learn, what you need to focus on. And, there's a lot to learn and there's a lot to focus on. And you really have to make those strides and figure those things out and learn those and really, figure out what you want to do and how you're going to do it. I wanted to share all these things because I found captaining your own ship over this past year can be frustrating because there's a lot of little details you figure out over time or you have to learn about and all that. And all these things I shared with you today are really, they're my opinion. They're my observations. I hope they are correct because if they're not, my ship's going the wrong direction and I'm going to have to do a course correction. But at the end of the day, no one's going to build your music career for you. You really have to be the one who builds that. Along with captaining your own ship, I want to suggest be the giver, not the taker. Be the one who brings something to the table. Be the one who walks into the room or even, the coffee shop. And, you're the person people want to hang around. You're the person, people want to just get to know. Be that joy to them. And also be the one who has a skill that you can offer and help someone else in the music industry who's also striving to do the same thing you are. I think that's very important. And I call that raising the tide. Because when the tide raises, all the ships raise with it. So if you're able to raise the tide, all the ships around you are going to be raised as well. And that helps everyone. And the final thing is enjoy the ride. It is a blast doing this. I can't see myself going back once I am financially successful with this. I think it'll be, a wonderful time. It's going to take time. As I mentioned, Nashville's a 10-year town. I'm hoping to do it faster, but, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. There's hope, but, I'm realistic as well. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Songwriters Journey. Please comment. If you have questions, feel free to post them. I'll be glad to respond. And if you think I'm totally out the left park, hey, feel free to say that too. But until next time, captain your ship, raise the tide, and enjoy the ride.